doesn't want to see that. You like?
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, how about you get me like the winning lottery numbers or something then? Oh boy, I don't know if you guys have caught any of this stuff today, but it is so bad. It is so, oh my god, this is just... yeah, I wasn't planning on streaming tonight. I worked all week. I gotta work a little bit tomorrow. And I've got to, much as I hate to admit this, I have to flea bomb my house because my freaking dog got fleas from the neighbor's dogs downstairs somehow, sharing a yard with them apparently, so now I gotta deal with that shit tomorrow. So I was just gonna record a video tonight and call it a night. I wasn't gonna deal with any of this crap. I was just gonna do a quick video, but this is probably something that's more relevant right now than it's gonna be in, 12 hours or 15 hours or whatever. So we're just kind of gonna go through some of this shit because this is just, I don't have words for this, guys. I just don't. And I'm stuck in the middle because I'm pretty much friendly with a lot of people involved in this, and I can see both sides of the argument. But so we're gonna get into it in a minute, guys. I'm probably only gonna stream for like an hour or so, just because unless it escalates, unless things happen that makes this entire situation worse. I don't know. That being said, guys, we'll still have our regular stream tomorrow night. I'm just not gonna have any videos for tomorrow morning because I am so tired. I worked all week. I don't have it in me. So we'll give it another minute or so before we really dive into this. But holy crap. Basically, what I see happening before we really dive in is that this entire situation, Smash AT, Dread Roberts, everybody else who's gotten involved, Savvy Artist, Melanie Mac, we're seeing essentially where everybody has kind of come under one umbrella, whether it's politics, whether it's gaming, whether it's whatever you want to call it, right? And people of different walks of life, different backgrounds, different moral beliefs and ideologies have said, okay, well, we can put all this stuff aside because we care about one thing together, right? We care about an election, we care about saving the video game industry, we care about having good products, good movies to watch, whatever. And unfortunately, what that has done is the more we see progress being made and, starting to have the pushback actually be successful and having wins, we're starting to see like the cracks, because a lot of these people, myself included, we don't all agree on a lot of the same things, whether morally, politically, ideologically, whatever, So the danger, and I think this is just about video games, but I think it expands to more like real life, the political realm as well, because you're going to start seeing people who join forces for an election cycle who never would have been friends otherwise, or never would have been allies, if you want to call them. I hate that term, allies. I really hate it. Allies are for wars. They're for conflicts, combat. You shouldn't have allies when it comes to, like, anything that's not a combat situation, in my opinion. That being said, we are going to start to see, I think, with the next 4 years politically in the U.S., maybe trickling down to the rest of the world, these cracks forming from people who are not on the same page politically or ideologically, who came together, and now we're just going to all have this shit show, this fallout, and it's unfortunate because it is just one of these things that's inevitable on some level. That being said, we will go ahead and do the first little clip that set this entire thing in motion. I'm going to have to pull up tweets and screenshots and stuff because I bookmarked a few of these things throughout the course of the day. I was working. I had to work 7 days in a row, and I was hanging out with both my kids. Well, I have 3 kids, but one of them went with me to work yesterday. The other one went with me today. We were hanging out for the whole day, having a good time. And I'm watching my phone as I'm not busy, checking Twitter, going, what on earth is going on here? Like, this is just unfolding before my eyes, and I'm like, everyone needs to take a chill pill. Everyone needs to just stop with the uncharitable interpretations and the lashing out, because this situation is not as big a deal as people are making it, but it is having like profound effects between YouTubers and people on Twitter and all that. So, Pirate Nation shared this video. And if you haven't been paying attention to First Descendant is a video game that is I don't want to call it a gacha game, but it's a microtransaction laden game where if you don't want to grind for the game, grind for the skins, you have to pay for it. Okay, fine. That exists across the board among many different studios and different games in the video game industry, so it's no big deal, right? Unfortunately, it causes controversy because on one hand, the left-wing woke people, the pro-censorship people who don't want anything attractive or feminine in video games are over here going, you can't have beautiful women in jiggle physics. That's wrong. That's evil. And so this clip right here is just one clip of a specific skin from this game. We'll go full screen. I don't even think there's audio. I don't think there's music. Hang on. Yeah, so it's just it's in the game. This character dances to music, and I think she's a support character or whatever. I haven't played this game in forever, so I don't know, to be honest. I haven't played this game in a long time. Yeah, Dreamer, honestly, I got bored with the game. I played it like 2 or 3 times, and it just... Here's the thing. I was playing First Descendant with the English dub instead of Korean because I was streaming it, so I needed to be able to hear instead of reading the subtitles because I'm reading chat, trying to play the game, it was just too much, right? So I just went ahead and played it with the English, and the English dub is really bad, in my opinion. I believe it's a Korean developer, Nexon. Yeah, they're doing Vindictus Defying Fate, which actually is a game that plays really solid. Vindictus is a great game. But the reality is, this is not a game, to me, that I had much interest in outside of, okay, I'll check it out. It's decent. Unless you're playing with a group, it's just not that exciting. To me personally. I have no other issues with the game itself. The game is a fine game, whatever. And of course, they have the fan service. They have females that actually look like women. And they have the skimpy outfits. You know, going back to days like Soul Calibur 2, there was far more revealing outfits than this. But this isn't going to appeal to everybody. And so this kind of kicked off this discussion about what makes a game, right? Is it about the fan service, the TNA? Is it about, what is it in a game that we really want? And that Pirate Nation said, is this what gamers want? This tweet has 2.3 million views on it right now. Hey, Tekla, how's it going, dude? And so there's been a lot of different responses. I mean, I saw people going at it, instantly talking about it. And again, people like to throw out the term Gooner and incel and all this other stuff, right? The devs do a lot to please. Yeah, like I said, it's the game's totally fine. You either have fun or you don't. And I think it's very much in line with Warframe. Warframe is a free-to-play game. And if you don't enjoy Warframe, you're not going to spend your money. I enjoyed my time playing Warframe, so I spent probably $20-25 for the 200-300 hours I played the game. And it was fun. I had a great time. I thought the story was really interesting. I thought for a developer that was definitely pushing more of a... You could tell behind the scenes that the people that made Warframe were definitely lean more towards the woke side of things, and yet the game was still really good. So again, it's not a judgment call on the people who played or on the game itself. Everyone's going to have a different perception of what is and is not fun. That's whatever. But I just pointed out, I think there's other options that exist somewhere between this and transsexual with vitiligo. Games like this, Dustborn. Not saying that you can't have games like this or that games like Dustborn can't exist. It's just that I don't personally need my games to be loaded full of TNA to be a good game. And it also doesn't make a game, not the only thing that makes a game good. If First Descendant had all these cosmetics and the aesthetics of these beautiful women, but the gameplay was complete dog crap, people wouldn't play it, You play Destiny 2, oh, I'm sorry. Devs listen to give the gamers what they want. People have to realize not every game's for everyone. That's why, yeah, exactly. That's where I think a lot of this, unfortunately, is evolving from. Well, and we'll get into the tweet in a minute. I think part of the issue with Dread Roberts' tweet initially, and I've spoken to him. I was going to see if I could get him on my stream tomorrow night, but he's super busy. He's got a lot going on. I think part of the issue is he was speaking in generalities, and I don't want to speak for him because, again, I don't have a statement from him. I'm not going to defend or deny anything that was said. It's more that my interpretation of what he meant was in a broad statement, broad spectrum about just gooning out to a video game just because of Bobs versus a game being good and also having good looking characters. That's just my take on it. Now, he might feel more strongly. He might be like, no, I don't want any skin in my game. And I'll be like, well, that's where we might diverge. And that's, again, like you guys said, you don't have to play it. Hey, Lugia. Isn't it obvious that market should decide religious people were trying to take away my games when you were a kid? Here's the funniest thing, Tekla. I grew up religious, and I grew up with a mom who's still very much superstitious, I would say, to a certain degree, about certain things like Harry Potter, this and that. And if you had asked me when I was a young teen when Harry Potter came out, based on the things that my mom believed or my parents drilled into my head, I would have been like, "Oh, Harry Potter has witches. That's evil and satanic." You grow out of that when you get older, and you go, "Oh." Well, my mom also thought, anything with an electric guitar was of the devil, and I'm over here like in my 30s rocking out to my Swedish metal, It's just, it's inevitable. It is what it is. You're always going to have people, and this is not again, this is not what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not trying to condemn or condone people's personal beliefs or opinions when it comes to video games and their morals and religiosity, if you will. Again, I probably have more harsh opinions about things like nudity in movies than I could possibly ever care about what content's in a video games. I think nudity in movies is stupid. And I saw this tweet from Zach Levi a while back that was like, "Oh, nudity is necessary for some movies." I'm like, no, if it was my daughter in a movie, I would say I don't ever want to see my daughter naked in a movie, or my wife, or anybody I cared about in my family. So personally, I don't think nudity in movies or sex scenes are serve a purpose. But again, everyone's allowed to have their opinion. So Oblivion, the thing is, Dread Roberts, who I'm sure you probably follow on YouTube or at least are familiar with, he put out this tweet after this video that Pirate Nation posted saying, "Is this what gamers want?" And you can see here, I'll go full screen so it's a little bit easier for you guys to see. Here we go. So in this tweet here, it's just a scene, a little clip from First Descendant where the character who's a support character who dances is just dancing around, right? That's the thing. Okay, but Oblivion, at the time, my parents took us to see the Lord of the Rings movies. Now my mom goes, "Oh, well, I don't know how I feel about those either." It's because she's trying to be consistent with her beliefs. I'm like, look, you either think it's a fantasy story and you accept it as fantasy and you don't try to ascribe any sort of weird Satanism to it, or you do and it's just not for you. And I'm sorry, you'll be missing out on it. But they even put, like, there was book burnings for the Lord of the Rings books and the Harry Potter's books when those movies first came out too. So this is the sort of thing that's always existed. Yeah, Harry Potter was Satan back then, basically. So this is what started this little clip here. And so Dread Roberts' tweet exploded. It's got like 1.2 million views. Yeah, and that's the other thing, Tekla, is that like I said before, I think his entire point that we're going to go through here, his original tweet, was taken a little out of context, or I don't want to say misinterpreted. Here, let me go tell my kids to go. Hang on a second. For that clip, you need not to move. Hang on a sec. Yeah, it's a good generalization, though. It makes sense. I think you pretty much were spot on with the generalization. So I'm just going to read through. Let's just read through his tweet, and then we'll kind of like break it down piece by piece, because there's been a lot of response. Like, there are so many responses to this. He got into it with Savvy Artist. Savvy Artist got into it with John Trent. John Della Rose jumped in there with Savvy. Smash and Dread Roberts were going at it pretty long for a while. There were some shots fired by Dread, not by Smash. And again, like I said, I reached out to Dread and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to come on my stream tomorrow night and talk about this?" And he's just too busy to really get into it. And I'm looking at this as somebody from like the middle outside, because I appreciate where Dread is coming from. I get it. I don't necessarily agree with everything he's saying. But I think that there's, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I think that this is going to show that we have an ugly road ahead of us when it comes to the next 4 years, whether it's political, ideological, moral, in video games and entertainment, because a lot of people for Gamergate, for the election, who have joined forces under one umbrella are going to start to splinter. There's going to be fractures. We're going to see cracks along the way. Yeah, Oblivion, that's the thing. And here's the problem. I'm going to read the entire statement, and what it's going to boil down to is people took exactly what he said and tried to ascribe it only to First Descendant, or specifically to First Descendant. And he went on later to clarify he wasn't even speaking specifically about First Descendant. However, it was the clip that was shared. And obviously it was kind of like not upskirt, but it was, an upward angled camera. So the entire focus of the camera is on the character's ass. So again, I think that's why he made the statement he did. So he says, any person with a modicum of decency would say no. This first line is what really pissed a lot of people off, because anybody who's like, well, I don't have a problem with it, now you're saying I'm not decent. So again, maybe not the best way to start. This is not where the future of gaming should be headed. The constant promotion of half-naked women as the greener side of gaming is getting ridiculous, and I'm beginning to think that these people who say they want to save gaming don't actually want to save it. That's, again, I can't speak to anybody who feels like that they are saving gaming or not. I can only speak to what I'm doing, and I am just here on the internet speaking about my opinions and what I'm seeing. So I can't speak to anybody else's personal opinions. People say Melanie Mac's a grifter, she's a fake Christian. I can't go ahead and say that either. I might not personally like much of her content, but she's allowed to do her thing, and I'm not going to say whether she's fake or not. So many claim to care about morals and the future generations and not even giving an inch of progress to devs who push woke ideology or whatever else, but then they'll turn around and tell young men and women to support titles that throw this stuff in your face. Well, so this line right here, he is specifically speaking about First Descendant, because that's the clip from the game. I've played the game. Much like Guild Wars, much like any other RPG or shooter game or any other sort of game that has a female character with a nice curve, at any point, you can take your camera, you angle it downward and stare at your character's rear end. Hey, Neato, is it Neat? Neato, Google. Okay, yeah. Neato. Hey, Neato. If you don't like it, don't even play it. Yeah. And I think that's the easy answer. I think that is truly the easy answer. And I think this is definitely the most, I hate to use the word problematic. That's like saying dog whistle, I hate those terms. But if there was something that might have got him in trouble, it could have very well been the decency line in this right here. Because saying throw this stuff in your face, well, a lot of people have said, basically, do you have a problem with people in bathing suits at the beach? And there are some people who do. There are truly some people who still exist in 2024 who have a problem with people in a bathing suit. Am I one of those people? No, I don't care. Now, does that mean I want to see some woman, with like 150 cc's of silicone and or some, person who's 450 pounds in a thong? Not necessarily. I think you can have a balance. I think you can have decent, moderate balance. And if somebody's in a two-piece bathing suit, I don't care. I could not care less. You can get achievements doing that? Oh, I didn't know that. Hey, Flack. Made in Korea, like many Eastern devs, that is global to different markets. Yeah, and well, I think Armendarius and hello, by the way. I think what that definitely fits into as far as the narrative goes is more of that, what we said at the beginning of the stream. If it's something that really bothers you, don't play it, especially if it's coming from a different part of the world, different culture, different studio. X-Fan wrote a comment for me talking about Sin Beelzebub and fornicating. Well, see, technically, here's the thing. I grew up religious. I still cling to my religious beliefs. Am I an active, religious, zealous person who thinks that everybody's a fornicator? No. No, I do think that there are good arguments to be had about the effect of long-term exposure to certain types of content, but that's not just, softcore or, sexual content in video games. The softcore thing, it's like, yeah, softcore is really the wrong word for it. That's another poor choice. And that goes down the entire argument of if violence in video games doesn't lead to real-world violence, does excessive sexual content in a video game lead to a real-life dependency on sexual content or changing your views of sexual behavior? And that would have to go to a study that I don't know if it's happened or not. So there's so much more to this than just, like, this is far outside of my pay grade, Yeah, Oblivion, that pisses me off. I mean, look, like I said about women in movies, and do I think nudity in movies for men or women is necessary? No, I don't think there needs to be nudity. I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid because they're still real people too. And it's like it used to be the worst thing that could happen for a celebrity or somebody is to have like a nude picture or a sex tape leak out there. Now half the women that exist online have an OnlyFans. I think there's a certain degree where we've normalized too much indecency in public or, online to where people are kind of desensitized. I don't know that a video game with jiggle physics and curvy girls is the cause of that. I mean, look, you can go on Steam. For a while when I was on Steam, I didn't bother putting the adult filter or turning the adult filter on or off or whatever it is for my Steam account because I didn't shop on Steam. I would look up specific games. But then I'd scroll through the trending best-selling games and half of it's like the hentai stuff with like naked characters. And it's like, well, I'm in my living room. I can't have that up here. So I set the filter to turn that stuff off. Did I buy any of those games? No, I wasn't looking for them, but it was in like the top sellers. So it's hang on a second. How many kids play the GTA games? Yeah. That's another thing too. I mean, would I let my kids at 9, 10 years old play GTA? Of course not. But are there other parents who did? Yeah. Right. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people have talked about nudity as far as being a societal norm or not being a big deal. In Western society, nudity is different than it is in a lot of Eastern cultures. So people are going to treat it differently here. And I think unless you change the entire culture's mindset about it, you have to accept that just being naked openly is not publicly considered decent. If you want to live in Africa or Asia or parts of the world where they think that that's normal, that's fine. It's just that we don't consider that to be normal behavior. She does mind outfits. Are we talking about Melanie Mac? Yeah. These kinds of character designs are plastered all over the place. Why is it bad again? I don't know, Duo. To be honest, here's my own personal experience. Let me speak from experience before we finish his first statement. I think most guys, because I'm 38, guys, so I might be older than some of you and not as old as the rest, right? So essentially, my situation with gaming and the excessive, jiggle, if you will, games like Blood Rain, going back to the old Soul Calibur 1 and 2 and all those games and stuff, is I don't know that anything that I was exposed to in my early developing years, 13, 14, 15 years old playing video games with excessive sexual content had any effect on how I was going to view sexuality down the road, right? Now, I know that growing up with the internet, because guys, I grew up in the days of the internet becoming a thing as a kid, and then high-speed internet becoming a thing, and then before you knew it, everything online was nudity and gore, because that was the wild west of the internet when I was like a teenager. Does it have an effect? Absolutely. Can you become addicted to that kind of stuff? Absolutely. Everybody goes through a lot of those phases, and unfortunately nowadays, sexuality and nudity online is a much more normalized thing than it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was considered taboo, and like I said, now half the girls on social media have an OnlyFans account, so it's unfortunately become the norm. I don't think that's a net positive. I think that's a net negative, to be honest. But can I go back and trace it to, well, I played what's her face, the character on Soul Calibur that was basically in bondage gear with the whip, and because I played that character, did it make me a gooner? I don't think so. I don't see necessarily a connecting dot between played a scantily clad woman in a video game and turned into some porn addicted freak. I don't necessarily believe or know or can't state for the definitive fact that there's a connection there. You're 40? Oh, okay, cool. Old man gang then. Days before safe search. Yeah, that's what companies want. Please do users to get paid. It's that simple. Well, yeah, that's the thing. So if you look at it from just purely the market perspective, and you go, yes, we want to have a video game industry that is healthy, that's thriving because it's selling something, it makes money, sure. And like the oldest, adage in the book that sex sells, that is always a contributing factor. Sex will always make things sell better if it's good to begin with. Well, I guess the pornography industry kind of flies in the face of that. It sells because it's sex. But in a video game or a movie, it has to be a good movie or a good video game. Otherwise, I don't know that it's necessarily going to create, any sort of momentum for a bad product. So, just like I said before, I played first Descendant, didn't care for it. The characters are fine. I think the characters look good. They don't bother me, but they're not enough to make me play the game, because I just didn't think the game was as good as a game like Warframe, which is a very similar game. But whatever, It's completely ass as far as multiplayer goes. That's how I feel about it. So when I was playing it, I played it when it first came out. Played it like 3 hours the first night. I think it was like the couple days after it came out. And it was pretty hopping. It was pretty easy to get into an open public multiplayer group. And then within a week or two, and those numbers started to decline, it was harder and harder to find a group publicly. So then you're stuck doing those quests, those missions by yourself, and I don't know, I just couldn't get into it as much. The game got really boring, for me personally. You could only see Boo Boo on TV fashion. I had to go looking for it in magazines or the old rated R movies we had on VHS tapes back in the day when I was a kid. Things are so different now than it was when I was a child. Yeah, clearly ass, 100% ass. Especially right now where parents don't really check what their kids are doing on their time. Yeah. Well, I mean, just hanging. The thing is, I'm not a fan of parents who don't parent their kids. As somebody who, I try to not be a helicopter parent, but I also try to keep a watchful eye on what my kids are doing and who they're hanging out with, who they're talking to. It is 100% up to the kids. And I'm not going to take this as a protect the kids situation. I'm not looking at First Descendant as a, oh, hide it from your children. It's like, well, that's a whole separate topic. We're just looking at this as a situation of going, is it healthy to have this much, I guess, degeneracy is the word that's getting thrown around for it in a video. And a lot of people, if we don't get to the tweets, a lot of people have pointed out, well, okay, so you've got a problem with jiggle and, thongs, or simply like something that's as revealing as a bathing suit would be in a video game, but we play games with death, torture, dismemberment, all sorts of horrible situations, and those are fine. That's why I brought up the fact that we saw those studies that I think came out of Korea years ago, saying that there was no direct link between video game violence and real world violence. Well, that's why I wonder if there's any way to actually do a scientific study or some sort of research to see if high exposure to sexual content in video games can actually change the way your brain thinks about sex. Now, I don't know that that exists, to be honest. It's some cheesecake. Yeah. No, see, that's the thing. It's the word soft core again, I think, is one of the problems. Soft core implies nudity with no hardcore sexual contact. This was simply jiggle. It's cheesecake, like you said. The Superior PvE game, DRG. What is DRG? Why am I not knowing that? The adult game industry is even bigger than Steam. That should say a lot. The fact we have purifiers trying to censor things in Civil War they don't want. Yeah, Jester, and here's the thing. I might not play those games. I might not think that they're necessarily a net positive, but I don't have to play them. I don't have to get in the middle of that. There's always going to be developers who develop games that you don't like. It's just like, okay, Last of Us 1 and 2. I didn't own a PlayStation at that point, didn't want to play them on PC, and after Last of Us 2 came out and it sounded like a complete shit show, I was like, yeah, I'm glad I missed out on those. Do I want those games scrubbed from existence? No, I don't care. I just don't play the game. I don't watch the TV show. My brother, he came to visit for Thanksgiving, and he doesn't really care about any of the crap, the woke stuff, the DEI. He's in the military. He's like, he just listens to what the government tells him. So he's like, oh, did you watch the Last of Us TV show? I'm like, no. He's like, well, it's based on a video game. I'm like, well, it's based on a PlayStation game, which I didn't play. And I can't stand Pedro Pascal, and I think the entire thing looks like a bunch of dog shit. But again, I just don't have to watch it. It is that simple. Age ratings for a reason. Yeah, like I said, this has nothing to do with parents. I think that the conversation about parenting your kids and games having too much sexual content really shouldn't correlate, because again, there's game ratings for a reason, and parents should be monitoring what their kids do anyways. So I like I said, I don't think this falls into the territory of protect your kids. At least I hope it doesn't. You're here to avoid French AI from probing your cornflakes. Good luck with that. Is the French AI any better? Oh, Deep Rock Galactic. I almost thought about playing that like a dozen times, but I recently, even though my library is continuing to expand, I went and bought more games when they were on sale, like Cyber Monday kind of shit, and oh my god, it's just crazy. There's so many games I'm never done with. Let's see. You don't need input as a parent from creators like Max tell you what's right. Well, yeah, but I'll have to go through her tweet here. I've got her response to this brought up in a second. Did she actually get into telling parents what to do? Because now, again, I don't want to shit on anybody. She doesn't know who I am. I think she once in a while responds when I say something on Twitter to her. I don't want parenting advice from people who are almost 40 and never had kids. So I think that that's one of those things that if she did get into the parenting conversation, she's way in over her head. It's part of humanity. The bigger issue is that a lot of parents don't talk with their kids about relationships. But they actually are, so they learn it from media like romance novels. Well, yeah. That very well could be. All right, Dreamer. Go get a good workout. Appreciate the sub. Neil Druckmann's work should be paraded out as what not to do. There's a lot of that, though. To be fair, there's a lot of those things that should be basically like a template or a guidebook for what not to do. They agree with you, and if your opinions differ, don't try to force them to follow your own, then it's all good. Yeah. Well, That's the thing too. And like I said, unfortunately, a lot of what this boils down to is I think that the net was cast for Gamergate 1, for Gamergate 2, the election, a few months ago, where all these people, I mean, people who have come from all walks of life, all different backgrounds, join together to go, you know what? I'm gay or I'm this or I'm that, and we're all going to join together because none of us like the pride stuff. None of us like the DEI shit. None of us like the woke crap being crammed down our throats. Just give us good video games. Well, now we're seeing the pushback from
Theirs
all the
is no
games falling
middle ground.
apart,
The
and what it's
knee-jerk
going to
reaction is to
show
make
is that
everybody
now
ugly.
our real differences are going to be reflected. We're going to see real differences coming here. Dubious 2020 for 5 says there's no middle ground. The knee-jerk reaction is to make everybody ugly. Yeah, that's well. There's a few ways you could take that. Maybe you can expand on that a little bit, because if you're going as far as like the woke stuff, they want to make everything ugly. If you're talking about the extreme left and right fighting, it definitely drags everybody in the middle through the mud. There's a lot to the extreme. But call wanting skimpy outfits degeneracy. See, here's the thing, guys. I'm a very how do I phrase this? Because I was raised in church. I still consider myself a Christian, but I'm a very bad Christian. I don't get bothered by a woman that looks really good in like a short skirt, like a low cut top or something. Like, sure, there's definite situations where certain behavior and the way someone looks, they could definitely look like a hoe or that they're trying too hard. But I don't go to the beach and see a woman in a two-piece bathing suit and go, "Oh, how horrible." It's like uh, people are just so strange with some of it. Ugly people don't stop what they claim is sexualization, which ironically they do. Yeah, the thing that caused all this, the thing that really started all this, and thanks again, Dubious, for the 5, appreciate it, is that so much of what we see these days is, again, you have the polar extremes, you have the far right, far left, and politically, I'm definitely more on the far right, but I have my own opinions about stuff like this, and I think that a lot of this is just retarded BS. Add in grandma as a playable character and nullify all their arguments. No, but gee, there was a grandma. There was the Asian old lady in Concord. Don't you remember one of the launch characters was like this old lady, old Asian gal? I didn't overthrow a tyrant to let myself be ruled by a different one. And actually, I was watching. I don't know if they're still going. Yeah. So Smash has got everybody in here. He's got Cial. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Personally, I don't care. He blocked me on Twitter for some apparent reason. I don't know. He's got Kata in there, Dev, who everyone's ranking on because Dev is kind of a fence sitter, and Hypnotic. And they were going over this a lot. They've been talking about a lot of this stuff. And somebody actually super chatted in and said, okay, but why is it censorship? Why isn't it censorship when you want to get pronouns out of games? And his response was, I'm not trying to remove pronouns from games. They can exist, but the market is going to say, if you have pronouns, I'm not going to buy it. So essentially, it's like letting the market decide is not censorship, which I have to agree with. It's really not. In the same way that you say, well, if 99% of gamers want hot, sexy women in video games, you need to make that for the majority of the players. There can be varying degrees to that, and again, if a game is too explicit, and for some people, they're just not going to buy it. I think that that's the really easy answer. You don't like SF Otaku? Was like 50, but she was Asian. Yeah, no, really. Asians, they age different, man. I saw this video once, this like Asian guy that was like 104 chopping wood, and he's like, well, if I don't chop the wood, who's gonna do it for me, Love a game of grandmas where they just shout opinions at you and fight each other with canes. Oh my god, that'd be hilarious. Yeah, so again, I don't think that saying I don't want this crap in my game is the same thing as censorship, which I guess to some degree you could make the argument that Dread Roberts isn't asking for censorship, he's asking for the majority of games to not be just, full of TNA, which I don't have a problem with him saying that. Look, I have no problem with those kind of games existing. I just don't personally seek out mostly like sexualized games to play. I've said this before. I want my characters, no matter what the game is, to look good. I want to watch a movie if it's meant to be a normal movie and not like a comedy with good looking people in it. I don't want to see a bunch of ugly ass people in a movie. In the same way, I want my video game characters to look like the ideal. The men and the heroes need to look heroic. Concord failed because it was a hero shooter with a bunch of people who did not look heroic, right? So the men should look masculine, the girls should look feminine, whatever that entails. Super sexualized or not at all, but still feminine looking, great. There are ways to do it for both. I would say I wouldn't want the norm to be, overly sexualized characters. Fine. But that doesn't mean that they're not allowed to exist or shouldn't exist. Mandatory and compelled pronouns. Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of it boils down to, unfortunately, is the feeling that if you don't have them, you or have to be othered or, pushed out of the industry. And that's really the shame of it all. Vandalism takes many forms. Agreed. Very true. They want to create a dialogue with the illiterate. Yeah, it's shockingly bad because, if you look at like the numbers coming out of like the Department of Education, we have a lot of illiterate people these days, more and more and more. So it's got to be very, very bad. Okay, so he said, most what I've seen for months now from these accounts are butt cheeks and cleavage. So this part here, he's complaining about the large accounts like Grums, like Pirate Nation and stuff, sharing just the images from like First Descendant as of ass and tits and stuff and all that. Okay. Sure. Like I said, I understand his point. And if he's just complaining about it, saying, yeah, I'm kind of over this, can we just have good games and not just focus on the jiggle? Because, look, the jiggle has been a big conversation. Lollipop Chainsaw, First Descendant, Vindictus Defying Fate, that mecha game that came out, I actually played the alpha on. I can't remember what the name of that game was. What was that one? I can't remember.
That you can point to and say, hey man, I love you.
Games that have beauty but not titillation.
Games that have beauty but not titillation.
Well, to be fair, I don't even mind a little bit. Like, in the game, it's okay to have some titillation. That's weird, you know? They go all in on people being deviant. Yeah, so again, I don't think it needs to... Here's my thing. There doesn't need to be a set standard. Because there's so many different types of games for different people, we don't have to say you can only go to this far in a game, you know? Now, I have seen some other really bizarre takes that I don't want to get into because, well, we might get into how long go on here, guys. It's one thing to say, don't censor our games, allow us to have the games we want. And I'm like, you know what? I can agree with all that. I'm all for that. Whatever you want to have, if it's legal, go for it. Then there are people saying depictions of things that are horrible, like imagine the worst thing you could possibly have happen in real life, you should be able to have in video games and media, because if they're not depicting real young ones, then it shouldn't be a problem. As reprehensible as I might personally, think it is, it's okay if those things exist. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm willing to cross that bridge. I just don't. I don't know if I'm willing to say, oh, it's okay to have that in there because it's not a real person. By the way, Lucia, thanks for the 2. I really appreciate it. We already have ratings, which should have already solved these issues decades ago. Okay, so the funny thing is, and Savvy gets into this on Twitter, and I've been paying attention when she talks about the ESRB stuff for a while now. The problem with the ESRB is they're not just rating video games, okay? They are straight up dictating the types of games that are allowed.
This many dollars worth.
BG3 set the standard on how to make a woke game and not beat you over the head within the woke nonsense.
You know what's funny, Dubious? And thanks again for the 5, dude. You rock. The funny thing is, a lot of people who are big fans of Baldur's Gate 3 are always like, don't call it woke. The game's not woke. And I'm like, but it seems like everybody kind of agreed on the fact that it was woke, but that it was woke done well. And then there are people who push back and said, you can't have woke done well because woke removes the ability to have well-created characters because everything's about equality and diversity and inclusion rather than just letting the story speak for itself and the characters represent themselves, So I don't know that I would even necessarily... I didn't play Baldur's Gate 3. I did not think it looked interesting for me personally. And then a lot of people said, well, you have to really be into like the turn-based stuff. And I like turn-based games. I liked a few of them back in the day. Third Age, Gladius, freaking... even like the... Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle games are really good in their turn-based games. There's some fun ones. Thing with people reporting others for drawing those terrible things that they're already legal and takes the focus away from actual SA crimes. Right. I've seen that. I've seen that argument too. And that's a really tough one. Wokes are already annoying enough now. It seems the Christians want to replace them. Yeah, Jelson, here's the thing. I don't necessarily know that it's all Christians. Like, personally, not me and not anybody that I know. I just think that unfortunately we're like I've said, we're seeing the natural culmination, we're seeing the fruition of a lot of different people with a lot of different personal beliefs and feelings and strong convictions that have all been brought together under one banner. That now that there's so many of us, it's like we're all in the tent together, right? And there's so many of us in the tent. Now we're starting to push each other and elbow each other. Things are getting out of hand. But yeah, Shinatsky, honestly, I understand that argument. And I'm not saying, how would you even deal with that? thing with people reporting others for drawing those terrible things is that they're already legal and takes the focus away. Yeah. I don't have a counter to that. I don't have anything to dispute that. So it sucks. It's gross. I hate it. I hate that people would even consider doing that. But yeah, I don't know what you could do to make things better by trying to somehow ban it or make it illegal. Oh, Susano says that that's correct with the ESRB. Yeah, I was under the impression that they did more than just rate games, that they honestly dictated the kind of content that had to be in games or what could be released in certain areas and stuff. Like, it went further than just, well, your content goes, beyond a certain age limit, so we're going to put a higher rating on it, The wokeness of BG3 didn't add anything of value to the game. It would be better without it. And see, okay, that's Tekla. That's exactly my point. I've seen that same argument. So there's people who say it's woke, but it's good. It's not woke and it's good. Or that there is woke and it makes those parts of the game worse. I've heard that third act of Baldur's Gate 3, which suffered from a lot of the wokeness they put in the game, is actually what drags the game down. But again, I'm just going with what I've been told. I didn't play the game personally. I didn't think it looked that fun, so I never got around to it. Yanni Navari says, yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is woke. The devs badgered the gamers for making too many white human fighters. Oh, was that a thing? I also noticed that, like, the succubus, I think, is there a succubus in the game? Really, there's some ugly-ass characters. I don't know if the succubus and incubus and all that's supposed to be attractive, but there's some ugly-ass characters in that game. Like, females that are borderline, like, almost as bad-looking as Tosh from Dragon Age Veilguard. Constantly wipe their filthy mouths with this game. That's the thing. That's the thing with Baldur's Gate 3. If we all admit that the game is woke but good, they'll say, see, you can make a good woke game. But I've actually said that before about Warframe. Warframe is a fairly, I'd say, progressive game if you dig into the story and you believe, like, there's, like, subtext there. Because, like, the Tenno and stuff are actually, like, the children controlling the Warframes. And there's this weird... Like, you could make these trans allegories with some of the frames. They have this one that's, like, made from different parts, so it doesn't have a gender and all that. So the developers of Warframe are very woke, left-leaning people. But the game was still really good. You have a feeling once you play it, you'll disagree, but time will tell. I mean, that's the thing. You can only really know for yourself. Yeah, it had furry stuff. Yeah. You don't want your daughter seeing you play a game like that. So, Susano, that's exactly it for me when it comes to the kind of content I play in games, because I don't have a game room. I'm sitting in my living room. My kids are all having a sleepover, the three of them in one room tonight, just kind of crashing, chilling. They're goofing off. They still won't go to sleep. But it's like, I got two monitors here. If I'm playing a game that is heavily, sexualized, above what I'm comfortable with them seeing, I'm not going to be able to play that game. So I tend to, as a parent, steer towards games that even if they're violent, the violence isn't over the top. Like, I won't play, like, gory horror games with them out here, but something that's like what they've seen in a Marvel movie. Okay, fine. Something that's more like PG. That's just a choice I make as a parent. That doesn't mean that I'm over here going, because I can't play this game as a parent, I want them banned for everybody else. That would be incredibly hypocritical. Like, I'm not asking for that, Woke is not yoked. I don't know much about Baldur's Gate 3 and don't know what we're talking about today. Well, Susano, it's about people within the Gamergate 2 sphere, YouTubers, people on Twitter. We're starting to see definite differences of opinion when it comes to religious people who are a little bit more liberal when it comes to the expression of, like, nudity and sexuality in art, and, what we should and shouldn't have in video games. It's kind of like a good summary of it, I think. Woke is when the progressive ideology becomes preachy, i.e. the same way a movie like Gods and Not Dead preaches. It's not a story entertainment, it's propaganda. Yeah, that's a really weird one. So, it's really funny. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, in a religious household, we watched a lot of those really cheesy Christian movies. And, man, there are some really, really bad Christian movies. Like, some of the worst things you'll ever see. And then, you go to a movie, I don't know how old any of you guys are, but the Jim Carrey movie that came out back in freaking, I think it was, like, early 2000s, where Bruce Almighty, where he plays God. That movie, as dumb as it is, and it's just like a regular old Jim Carrey, PG-13 comedy, actually did a better job of teaching a good Christian message than half the shitty Christian films I saw growing up. Because the entire point was, you think that God has it so easy dealing with all of your crap and all your nonsense and listening to all your prayers, and you're God for like a week and you can't handle it. So, I thought that movie, for not being a Christian film, did a better job than a lot of the preachy, really bad Christian films that came out when I was a kid. Something like this back in the 80s, all it did was cause people to run to the other side. I see this as a repeat of it, but that's just too fast. I don't know that it's going to be so hardcore like the actual Satanic Panic, where, like I said, my mom was one of those people that didn't let me listen to anything outside of like oldies and country until I was like a teenager, could listen to whatever the hell I wanted to. And so you definitely, I mean, early 2000s, late 90s, you still saw a lot of that stuff with, again, the book burnings for Harry Potter and all that kind of crap we mentioned earlier. To be fair, a dev on Twitter is different than the game itself. Ideally, professionalism would mean that the differentiation of the two would be the norm. So here's the thing about the end. This is what I've noticed. This is where I've definitely seen where you can almost conflate the two as like not being able to separate the art from the artist. When it comes to a lot of these developers, unfortunately, what we've seen is if the developer is on Twitter running their mouth and telling you that you're an asshole and a Nazi if you voted for Trump or anything of the sort, right? If there's any of that crap going on, odds are the game they worked on probably isn't going to be very good. That's just a fact. And here's the funny thing. I actually heard about the game Avowed a few months ago. And I looked at it and go, okay, well, here's an RPG. Looks like a standard Elder Scrolls type game. It's going to be on Game Pass. I have Game Pass anyways. So I might check it out when it launches next year. Whatever. Comes out at the same time as Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I won't have time for it, but maybe I'll check it out. Then I saw gameplay. And then I started hearing the things from Matt Hansen and other people saying, you know, oh my God, this guy's insane. And then I looked at the gameplay again, and I'm like, the gameplay doesn't look that good. If we're being objective, take Matt Hansen and all the weirdo woke shit out of the way of the pronouns and stuff. Avowed does not look that good, in my opinion. Somebody tried to compare Avowed and Dragon Age Veilguard to the combat in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and they compared video clips, and I'm like, these games are night and day. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is going to be 10 times better than Avowed. There's just not even a question in my mind. So I think sometimes you can separate the art from the artist, but unfortunately, when the artist is somebody who spends more time screeching at people about pronouns online than they do actually work on the game, I think there's a situation there where you can actually say that these people have a profoundly negative effect on their product because of their own personal beliefs. Let me see here. You say that because it's what agents actually complain about when they look into SA crimes. Yeah, Shinatsky, like I said, I hate it, but you're probably right about that, to be honest. I wish there was an easier thing to do about it, you know? It was an early access prior to release and before all the classes were made available. Oh, okay. Tencent owns 100% of Warframe and 30% of Baldur's Gate 3. Oh, you know, I didn't realize that Tencent owned Warframe. I assumed that there was some involvement there, but I didn't realize they actually owned it. Interesting. So the game data was collected and the average tab created had a trend. People back in the day knew how to have messages but not have them ruin the story they were telling. Oh my God, there are so many movies. You could go back to the movies that I grew up with, and I could go, okay, well, in this movie, the Republican's a bad guy. In this movie, it's about the environment. But they still had a good movie, and if you didn't like the political message, you just kind of roll your eyes. You go, okay, that moment was kind of cringy, and you just move on. There wasn't any need to like freak out about it, and it wasn't like, oh my God, the entire movie is lecturing me and telling me what a horrible person I am, you know? Yoked is slang for jacked and all that. Yes, it is. You made a fighter early on because monks weren't available, neither were warlocks. Oh, how late are you not soon? Not terribly late. We've been going for about 45 minutes, I guess. I don't know. That dude was their nightmare back in the day. Yeah. So late you made it? No, not soon. You're not that late. You're good. Is J.K. Rowling the British Alex Jones? No, because she's way, way, way more liberal than Alex. Alex Jones is like, you know, far right. He's like right of me. And J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling is only based when it comes to her defense of women's spaces. And that is only, and I hate to say this, it's only because she is such a hardcore feminist that she doesn't want men in women's spaces, which I guess friend of my friend or friend of my enemy or enemy of my enemy or whatever, you know.
Presents are the best way to show someone how much you care. It is like this tangible thing that you can point to and say, hey man, I love you, this many dollars worth.
Piggybacking on censorship. What's your take on Visa restricting consumers from purchasing the manga from Japan? Melon Books.
I think it's stupid. I don't understand why there's any ability to censor anything between countries. I don't get it. And I think furthermore, and thanks for the 5, Jester, appreciate it, dude. I think what we have, unfortunately, nowadays is so much censorship, whether it's not just content like entertainment, video games, and manga, but then you also have the censorship from the news, the media sites, the governments basically controlling what everybody hears. The situations like Ukraine, Russia, the Gaza situation, any other conflict we've been involved in the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years has to be filtered through all these different sources, much like any sort of entertainment, where we can't just access information. Despite having the internet and all this information at our fingertips, we have less ability to just access whatever it is we want without it being filtered than we've ever had in the past. Like, okay, 100 years ago, you have to go to look up something in a book, but nobody could filter it. It was printed, it was there, it was done. Somebody would have to go remove that book physically to say, we don't want anybody reading this, right? Nowadays, it's like, oh, no. We need to refine our search filters, right? So just like manga gets censored or video games get censored between countries and all that, I hate it. I think it is despicable that nations are able to censor what comes in and goes out of their countries, unfortunately. Now, is there an argument to be made for censoring misinformation from other countries? Like, let's say you're in a cyber information war with another country and you want to not let them propagandize your people. Sure, there's a good argument to be made to not let some other country influence your people, but then it turns into everything is, Russian disinformation. And how do you know what's disinformation and what's just more bullshit, guys? It's like, I almost feel like you're better off just letting the information flow and letting people figure it out for themselves. I don't think they're gonna take it too personally. From what Smash was saying, I think they're still going. I was gonna try to like pop in here. These guys are. This chat is going crazy. They got 1,000 people watching right now. This is insane. Oh, he's got Atreus on here now. Doesn't sound like Smash has taken this too hard personally, but it definitely it seems like it caught him off guard because he just wanted to respond to Dread civilly, and Dread got a little heated. And again, I'm not going to shit on the guy. I like Dread, but I definitely think that they came at this from different perspectives, and Dread might have approached it the wrong way. You wanted to account for the inevitable situation where one unhinged person comes out to attack people despite everything else being good. But yes, all fair points. Yeah. Yeah, JK is woke as hap, exactly. The thing was, JK is big friends with a lot of like lesbians and feminists. So she's in that wheelhouse where she is definitely progressive, but she's that LGB and then cut off the T, BG3 proved that trying to replicate the tabletop experience isn't a negative, it's a big positive, and that's definitely something to think about, because maybe you guys can tell me. I've never been into the ability, like Warhammer. I don't have the ability to set up a Warhammer table, paint my minis. I don't have time for any of that crap. So for me, doing tabletop for that kind of stuff is not happening. Were there actual good depictions of that in Warhammer games, like the actual battle strategy tactics games? Because I've seen so many games, and I've never actually played any of the actual tactics Warhammer games. So maybe there's a good one that has like a good depiction of how the tabletop actually works. Avowed looks like an all-right attempt at recreating what Skyrim did a decade ago and would look more in place about 5. Yeah, I think Avowed just looks unfinished. And that's not me. I don't want to just shit on the game because it's quote-unquote woke. I don't know that the game itself is woke yet. It just doesn't look great. What's really going on? China gets involved with Western companies, having them go woke, crash the company, then they come in. Oh, that's what's going on with Ubisoft, guys. Ubisoft, that's going to be the big story this week. You're going to see every YouTuber covering Ubisoft, because now the mainstream media is talking about how Ubisoft is trying to figure out how to sell off the company and for the Guillemot family to still somehow maintain control. And I don't know how they're going to pull that off, especially with China being involved. Let me see here. Suppose it's a form of moral panic that keeps repeating in different forms. Yeah, moral panic, it seems, goes in cycles. And you know what? It's really funny. Because, God, I feel like I'm super behind the chat, guys, but I'll catch up in a minute. The moral panic situation is really funny because earlier this year, late last year, we've seen a trend online where all of a sudden you see libs of TikTok share something on Twitter. You see all these YouTubers who weren't right-wing watching these videos going, oh my God, the moralists and the Christians from the 90s, they were right about the slippery slope. And then you see all these things with like the trans and the drag queens and all this weird sexual shit going on in schools. And it's like, okay, so there is a certain amount of moral panic that is justified. And you can see it kind of unfold over the last 20 years of how bad things have gotten in certain situations. Then there's the moral panic about things like Harry Potter, and you go, really? Is this really worth it? Is this really worth all the chaos? We've got those that want to preach and control and those that just want to be left alone. as well as whatever's in between. I'm in the in between to the right. I believe that there's a certain amount of this that people should just be left alone about. I believe that there are certain things like they were talking about it on Smash's stream earlier. I was listening in, and they were talking about John Trent, and he's heavily Catholic. Most of the guys at Fandom Pulse, John Trent, John Del Rose, are both Catholic. Talking about wanting to ban pornography. Would I be happier if pornography didn't exist? Yes. I think it's a net negative for society. Do I believe that there's a way to efficiently ban it without causing massive issues? Probably not. You know, so sometimes, unfortunately, moral degeneracy, if you want to call it that, or net negatives for society are going to exist whether you like it or not. Yeah, avoiding Chinese-owned games is definitely a possibility. I bought Black Myth Wukong because the game looked good, and it was a genuinely good game. But I fully understand that the game definitely did support the CCP. But again, buying a cell phone these days supports the CCP. So how do you actually effectively distinguish between where your money goes? And if you don't buy stuff from China, you're still, if you are an American citizen and you're paying tax dollars, your tax money is going to go to a politician who's going to send it to China. It's like, I wish we had more control over where our money went. I really do. Let me see here. People can dissect BS in real time within hours of being put out. Yeah, no, I think that's a lot of what's going on with Avowed, is you can pretty much tell there's a lot of BS to it. Companies like Visa are scared of activists. They don't care about the issue, just afraid of this possibility of backlash. Dude, there's a lot of credit card companies, and this is, again, my American side kicking in here, and I like to look at guns and buy guns because it's America. You can do that. It's legally allowed. My state, because I'm in Washington, my state kicks you in the nuts anytime you want to buy a gun because there are so many restrictions now. But there are credit card companies that have started saying, well, if you're going to use your credit card to purchase a gun, we're going to deny the transaction. We're not going to let you do it. And it's like, this is what we're seeing. Credit card companies, not just, or again, financial institutions like banks dropping people like Sargon of Akkad and everybody else from their actual financial institution, closing their accounts and saying, go take your money somewhere else. We don't want your business here. But we're seeing credit card companies say, you can't purchase this or that with your credit card. It's absolutely insane. Absolute bonkers. Hey, Mahendra. Oh, there's infighting going on around the first Descendant because of moral panic about scantily clad women in video games, and it's unfortunately trickling down into the Gamergate sphere. Feel the same way, especially since Tencent owns Riot Games, which is responsible for doing military research on their users and banning for... Oh my god, seriously? I didn't know that. I knew Riot sucked, but holy crap. Both sides, far right and far left, for censorship. They don't want their own version of it. Yeah. Hey, Mr. Tay, how's it going? Like I said, there's a certain amount of things that I think you can have a rational, logical conversation about and say certain things are just fundamentally bad for everybody. But when it comes to this just seems like so much that's not even worth fighting over. And yet here we are, you know? Total Warhammer is kind of close. Thing is, Warhammer takes a while to do a battle. Right. I imagine Warhammer is a investment. It's a labor of love and time consuming, right? We're too mixed up as far as work goes. You might think you're avoiding a country's games that you can almost guarantee that you haven't. Don't wish to go into who works there. You might be surprised by even when the people that worked on the OS you're watching this from are... No, for real. No. That's the thing. That, honest to God, I personally think that 90% of the time you have to be able to separate the art from the artist, the product from the person that made it. I'm sure, I mean, I work in retail. I'm not going to get into the details of what I do. I deal with a lot of customers, wholesale, online, retail. I was doing retail for 2 days straight after 5 days of working manufacturing. And I've probably got tons of customers who love me as a person because I've got customers who've been buying from me for years, but they don't know who I voted for. And if they did, they probably wouldn't want to buy from me. And it's like, well, at some point you have to go, we're all human beings. Take the political stuff aside and you go, okay, can we at least get along on certain things to where we can treat each other like humans? Because at some point, the canceling and othering of people has just gotten to be so extreme, especially given the last 4, 6, 8 years of politics, you know? So I've made a post mischaracterizing the position of gamers unhappy with censorship. Dread Arbs denied it, but acknowledged the excessive focus on appearances of characters. Yeah, exactly. You guys all summarized this very differently. It's funny because you can kind of tell where everyone, aligns with, but it is very interesting. Mao didn't write Journey to the West, I'll play Wukong. Oh, there you go. That's a good way to look at it. Bigger issue to you isn't the CCP, it's the big three, even if, like, Boston Consulting Group, granted you got Vanguard, Vanguard and BlackRock and, yeah, Blackstone, all those. But again, those also have investments from China, don't they? Doesn't China heavily invest in BlackRock, if I'm not mistaken?
Presents are the best way to show someone how much you care. It is like this tangible thing that you can point to and say, hey man, I love you, this many dollars worth.
Before I even knew about Sweet Baby Stink, I pre-ordered Flintlock, Unknown 9 and Star Wars. I'm a gamer, I don't care about all the woke nonsense. Just make a goods game.
Right. Thanks for the 10, Dubious. Appreciate it. You're freaking awesome, dude. Yeah, you know, that is the trap we fall into, because a lot of the content that a lot of us make revolves around the crazy DEI leftist woke shit in the video games. Because unfortunately, it's not just gaming, it's in the schools, it's in our government, it's in the corporations in America. We just all happen to have a love of video games, and so it's kind of where we go. Entertainment is the last line of defense, basically. They've already taken over the institutions, the libraries. Like, holy crap, I went to the library with my wife and kids a couple weeks ago. They wanted to go check out some books, because libraries still exist, guys, believe it or not. It's crazy. And unfortunately, you look at 90% of what's on the shelves, and it's all about my racial pride, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, where the hell's the books about killer whales? Where's the books about the Civil War or, you know, biology? No, it's all literally like propaganda crap. But it is true that a lot of people, before they knew about the Sweet Baby stuff, would just give a game a try because they go, well, I love Star Wars. I'm a gamer. I want to give this game, you know, a shot. And unfortunately, what was found out through a lot of this process is that the reason so many of these games suck is because they're hiring people who are not qualified because of the push for DEI across the board in all these industries. And unfortunately, I don't know if you guys all saw that Double Exposure, the one that made Stranger Things.
Do I need
Good
to be
Lord.
liked? Absolutely
What the hell's the name
not.
of that show?
I like to be.
Game.
Do I need to be liked? Absolutely not.
I got to catch up to the chat. What is going on here?
Do I need to be liked? Absolutely not. I like to be liked. I enjoy being liked. I have to be liked.
Dude, NS, where did you come in, dude? 5 gifted. Holy crap, man. You don't got to gift nothing. This isn't even a normal stream for me, dude. Appreciate the hell out of you, though, man. You're awesome. What happened to Red Roberts? Ravixi, he just got into some hot water because he's very, very conservative, very religious, and he was criticizing the push, the pendulum swinging one direction where a lot of games are focusing on a lot of the excessive. I'm going to say excessive. I don't mean it like that. The focus has been on jiggle physics and sexy females, and he thinks that it's just eventually going to get to the point where they think that that's what makes the game good. I don't want to speak for him, and I don't necessarily agree with everything he said. I just think that there is nuance there. I understand his point, but it caused a lot of chaos because he did seem to target people in the way that he said it. And I think somebody else put it that he was very like, he was essentially going after several YouTubers over it, you know? So the de novo thing, G, is going to be pretty fun to watch because Indiana Jones had de novo for the early access, I believe, but then they said they weren't going to have it for the launch. And then Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was supposed to have de novo, and then they walked it back and said no de novo, and then they moved the game up a week. So I think this is a good sign that a lot of these developers are going, no more of this DRM crap, like walk away from it, you know? It's not even really the idealization of corporations. It's a matter of them wanting to use systems of power to advance their agenda, whether it's government or private corporation power. Yeah, you know, unfortunately, power corrupts ultimately, or is it ultimate power corrupts ultimately, or whatever the expression is. To be or not to be. That is such a great username. Endokai, criminally under sub, my man. Love the show. I appreciate it, Endokai. Dude, no, I'm not under subbed. I have far more subs than I deserve. Honestly, for me, the biggest issue I've had is the algorithm kicking me in the nuts. Like my nuts have gotten smaller by the day. The further I get kicked by the YouTube algorithm. I was growing just fine, faster than I deserved. And then after the election, a few channels got like, it was like they just wrenched that like that pipeline, that hose. It just got shut off. I was gaining probably on average for like 6-7 months 800 subscribers a month, and then it's all the way down to like 100, which is still more than I deserve. It just sucks when you see everything just kind of like it just comes to a grinding halt. And I know that it'll tick back up eventually, and like my video last night did a lot better, so I'm happy for what I have. I just have to occasionally say what's up so you guys kind of know what the situation is, you know? Let me see here. On your point, you tried to get into having a book published and quickly realized that none of the agents and publishers wanted you. They all have been captured by white cat lady. Yeah, so that's why you're seeing a lot more with people that do like the independent comic fundraisers, the a lot of people who just literally make their books, and I think you can upload them to Amazon and sell your book directly through them and have them print it for you. That probably costs more money than having a bunch of them printed through a publisher. But there are publishers that exist that are still decent publishers. I think the dude that created Authorized TV has a publishing company, if I'm not mistaken. Can't remember his name at the moment. Life is Strange. Thank you, Fight Me Verbally. By the way, you've got the coolest freaking username. I love Fight Me Verbally. People who support the companies because they believe companies should be free, but the companies are acting like governments. Well, and let's be honest, the companies and the governments, they go hand in hand. It's kind of like all these NGOs in other countries where you think you're giving money that's going to go to the starving people in Ethiopia or India or whatever, and most of that money gets funneled right back to the states into politician pockets, you know? Why your focus is to owners is on the bottom line. The nonsense costs the companies involved. It's not being for or against it. It's being for something else, which is the business. Yeah. Let me see here.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
NS says, here's the thing. If I had to pick between Gooner and Coomer games or DEI woke nonsense, give me the Coomer slop any day of the week. Well, Janotsky, thanks for subbing. Appreciate it. Here's the thing I'll say, NS, and again, thank you, dude, for the 5 gifted. You're awesome. And we're still going to do my usual Monday night stream tomorrow night. I'm done with my crazy work week. Tomorrow's going to be an insane day, but I'm only going to work for a few hours. I got other shit to take care of, but we're still going to stream tomorrow night, and hopefully this stuff's all resolved by then. I just knew it's like I can make a video on this. I just don't feel like it's worth a video. It's much easier to talk about this, and we can kind of have a good discussion, because I think this is something worth talking about. My question, NS, is what are we defining as like Gooner game? If we're calling the first Descendant Gooner game, then I'm 100% with you. Absolutely. But I don't view that as a Gooner game. I think that's the biggest misconception of this entire argument, is that he kind of used the first Descendant as an example, and then later on he says, I wasn't speaking specifically about this game. So that's unfortunately, once this all kicked off, I mean, if we refresh this, how many views has this tweet got now? It's up to like, what, it's still at 1.2 million, so it seems to be quieting down. Unfortunately, he picked a bad game to use as an example. That's just my take on that, you know? Part of ask, don't your assets understand? Absolute power corrupts, absolutely, 100%, yep. You wish CDPR stayed like Warhorse? Do you think CDPR was ever truly like Warhorse, though? Because Warhorse, if you go back to 2015, Warhorse, the dev, was like, screw this, why are we going after the gamers? That was 9 years ago, and he's like, hey, I'm with the gamers on this one, you know? I think Frank Herbert said it better. It's not that power corrupts, but rather that the corrupt by their nature seek out power. Well, yeah, I think, though, that's the thing about the entire premise of Lord of the Rings, is that regardless of where you are, as far as, like, spiritually, mentally, wherever you are, as far as, like, a person, as a complete individual who's at peace with the universe, and you couldn't seek power, and you wouldn't care to, like, control anybody else, at some point, there's a little piece of you that wants power, whether you realize that or not. Even if it's just power to be able to tell everyone else to go F off and leave you alone, and if you're given the opportunity to have that power, you might take it. I think that's where it gets down to, you know? In your honest opinion, power corrupts the susceptible and also often draws the power hungry already corrupt. And that's the thing too, Oscar. Appreciate you for being here. There is something about that where there are people who suddenly become rich or who become rich over time, and it doesn't change them. And it's the rare exception, but it does happen. So, for example, there are people who like win the lottery and then they lose all their money within the first month because they just have no brains. They don't know what to do with all that sudden influx of cash, right? And then there's people who have always lived modestly, and then they become rich over time, whether it's through a business venture or they just get lucky, whatever happens. And that doesn't change them, and they literally just put that money in investments and savings, and maybe they'll buy themselves a newer pair of shoes once in a while or something. But they don't spend that money like it's, you know, going out of style, like they have to spend it. They just live modestly, and that's the rare exception, I think. Unfortunately, it's just human nature, it seems, that whether it's power or money or influence, excessive amounts of those tend to corrupt people. And we see that with Twitter. Even if it's accounts on Twitter that are not heavily monetized, their influence, the ability that these people have to influence other people is addictive to them. So they, all of a sudden they're on their high horse and they think, oh my God, I've got this huge audience. Okay, maybe I'm not making much money from Twitter, but all these people are listening to me. And it eventually, I think, gets into people's heads. I don't know. Gooner game is, if you understand the term correctly, is an actual prawn game. Maybe. There's 3 categories: woke nonsense crap, which makes women masculine; normal stuff where games have attractive women and strong men. That's, again, the norm before DEI, and then the first types. Well, see, to me, I wouldn't necessarily label First Descendant even as a Gooner game. I would say that if I was going to call something truly like Coomer Brained or Gooner, I would say something like in the category of adults only games that I don't have on my Steam account. I wouldn't go out of the way to say that games like First Descendant or anything like the Stellar Blade is inherently a Gooner game. Does it kind of cross over into that? Yeah, sure, maybe a little bit. But for example, I would not. Once Stellar Blade comes out, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to play it. Not because I'm a Gooner, but because the game looks fun. And from what I've heard from everybody who played it, it was a good game. Does that make me a Gooner? I don't think so. I can't imagine. As usual, used it on everything until the word lost all meaning. Yeah. Gooners were feds in the hacking space. Default outfits in the First Descendant are pretty tame compared to the paid ones. Yeah, that's the other thing about it too. That's why I said I think it was just a very poor example to use. CDPR only got listed on Polish stock market after Witcher 3's release. Then that was the move to Canada and embracing ESG. Pretty base, but gave it away. Like my wife on our wedding night. I'm just... I needed that's what she said button. First rule of the lotto: if you win, don't tell anyone. Well, actually, that is the first rule. The second rule is get a really good accountant and a really good attorney, because you want to make sure you do your taxes properly, and you need that attorney to make sure that you get everything squared up so you don't have anybody coming out of the woodworks trying to take that money from you or anything. But yes, 100%, don't tell a word and get an accountant, like stats. That's right, Natsuna, you've been playing First Descendant, haven't you? Copilot said a Gooner game is a roguelike. I think that's accurate. I think Copilot needs to go back to the drawing board on that one. When you play any game, you barely wear swimsuits on the characters. Here's the thing. It's very much like any other game. For example, you could play on Soul Calibur. You could play a really cool character. What was it, Victoria that had the whip? I think her name was Victoria. It was something with a V. And she had like the straight up bondage outfit that you could wear where basically like it's just like electric tape. Or you could wear the outfit that looked more like a British like a sea captain or whatever. It's whatever you like. When I played the other Nexon game, the alpha for it that they had, the little playtest you could play, the Vindictus Defying Fate, the character that you could play was the chick with like the really, revealing outfit. It's like a Greek goddess kind of outfit, right? Or she also had one that was like really cool, had armor and stuff. I played the one that had the armor on it because I thought it looked really cool. Doesn't mean I don't like the look of a beautiful woman also in a skimpy outfit. That's great, whatever, I don't care. But I thought the armor outfit was really awesome. I like characters that have cool armor. I'm an armor file. Is there a word for that? Somebody who like thinks armor is really cool and sexy? Like I love good armor. I don't know. I used to like want to do like cosplay with armor and stuff. I never got into it. Find count that the queer Karens are gonna get what's coming to them. Well, there's no doubt about that. Mods are going to do a hell of a lot in the next few years. Let me see here. Agoon's definitely a fed. So yeah, I guess it does make people more what they become, but I think that there is a certain amount of what people have within themselves. Because I'm sorry, I'm gonna out myself here as somebody who grew up religious and somebody who looks at the world through a very specific lens. I believe all people suck, and we have to actively work not to be terrible people. That's just my personal opinion. I think all people are naturally inclined to do evil, and you just have to fight those instincts you have every day. Otherwise, if you don't, and that's why sociopaths exist, if you have no desire to fight those instincts, you're going to go out of your way to screw over everybody you possibly can. Because again, if you're only looking out for yourself, then why wouldn't you screw over everybody? So I think everybody on some level has a small part of them that is capable of doing extreme evil. But I think most of us have a conscience and the desire to be better than that. So sure, some people might have more resistance to corruption and abusing power, but I do think that the potential is there for most, if that makes sense. First Descendant and Stellar Blade are great games. I liked First Descendant, but like I said, I just couldn't get into it like I did Warframe. I might go back and give it another shot later on. You don't have this on your Steam account? This Steam, yeah, no. I have one Steam account. One. I have one. My kids have one. I have one. Sorry to disappoint, NS. Basically, if you're a high status person, you do whatever it takes not to lose said status. People who don't have any status don't tend to seek it. Very true. I just started studying more as I came into owning your own life outright. Rather have that freedom than worry about what others are doing. But me. You know, Susano, I think that that's a fair approach. There's a lot of people, I would say almost more of like the libertarian mindset, where it's like, you do your thing, I'll do mine, and I don't want to hear about it. I tend to think, unfortunately, like the live and let live mentality, while admirable, does allow a lot of gray area to exist that probably shouldn't exist. Dead or Alive Extreme, there you go. Yeah, I played Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball back when I was a teenager, 100%. Not gonna deny that. I had way too much fun with that game. I think it's possible to have strong feminine characters that also have strong dude characters that don't diminish each other in support. No, Oscar, for real. If you go back to like good movies, like good fantasy and action movies from the 80s, you had really cool, like, strong women and masculine men, and there was no like shaming involved. It was great. Like edging. Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't realize that gooning was specifically like that. Huh. I wasn't aware of that. Hey, Mari. Sorry, I'm just now catching up with the chat, guys. I'm working my way down. Don't look it up, Susano. It's not worth it. Well, yeah, involuntary celibate, exactly. Hey, Mystigree, is that Mystigree42? Did a Matt Walsh. You know, honestly, I kind of feel like you're right about that. And I hate to say that because I really like Dredd. I think his content has been great. I know he's taking a break because he's got a lot going on in his life personally with kids and trying to move and stuff in the next few weeks. So he's got a lot going on. I don't want to crap on him. And like I said, I even invited him on my stream tomorrow night, but he's busy. And I totally understand that. He's got a lot going on. I just feel like that between his initial take getting taken out of context and misinterpreted, and whether he did a fair amount of explaining or not, and then his reaction to when Smash and other people pushed back against him, unfortunately, it created this cacophony of just disaster, where now we have all these people fighting over this shit, and it just seems so, I don't know, not just pointless, but it's detrimental, you know? Like, with all these W's, all these wins, why are we going through this right now? You've been pretty low in the totem pole your whole life. It taught you to be more humble than you would have money in the world. Yeah, Shinatsky, 100%. God, okay, so my brother and I were having that conversation because we worked in the family business our entire lives until, well, I still work with my family. It's me and my mom now, and she's trying to retire. But my three brothers, they all got out and did their own thing, but we all worked horrible hours growing up for very little pay or next to nothing. And it wasn't really a fair situation. If I could go back and do things differently, I probably would walk out at 16 and go get a real job. But he's like, yeah, but it taught us important stuff and this and that. I'm like, yeah, it did, but at what cost, So, yeah, no, there's definitely a certain amount of understanding where you are in life and being humble and coming from humble beginnings, but then there's a certain amount of abuse, I guess you could put it, that you shouldn't put up with to some degree. View everyone as no different than animals, just animals that can reason out their behaviors. See, I don't look at people as animals. I definitely think that there are some people who probably aren't much better than them. One extreme or the other will seek to censor. Yeah, Snake, the thing is, thanks for joining the stream, by the way. Appreciate everybody who's here right now. This was not a planned stream. I was literally thinking of just making a video covering this, but I'm like, you know what? The kids are in bed, my wife's working, let's just talk about this. Libertarianism is a means to an end. Potentially. Pinball Wizard, my father was a knight of Sidonia and took out the Tower of Anguish to ensure the demons gained no ground to the north. We live in an age when we shouldn't justify winning games with hot women. We shouldn't have to justify it, no. I 100% agree with you there. We should not have to justify wanting attractive things in our games or movies. Like I said, we should have higher standards in Hollywood that better looking people should get the leading roles in action movies and comedies and all that. Well, maybe not comedies. Danny DeVito existed for a reason. But you know what I'm saying. Anything where you're supposed to take the characters seriously. Native American lore speaks of the two wolves of personal... Oh, the two wolves, yeah. Internal morality, the good one and the bad one, and the analogy of the tail which wins in a person is the one that is fed and indulged. Oof. The only thing wrong with Dredd's take is how he started the post, anyone with a modicum of decency. If he had not started that way, it would not have come across. Yeah, I think, DB, I think I've seen you talking about that on Twitter. One thing that I've also pointed out, because we didn't even get all the way through it, is this one right here. This is the other part that really kind of was not a smart way to approach it. Is he says they'll turn around and tell young men and women to support titles that throw this stuff in your face. So I said, he has said before that he didn't specifically mean First Descendant, he was generalizing, but then says this stuff, referring to the video from Pirate Nation with the girl's backside. It's like, you said it, in one hand it wasn't, you know, this game, but then you specifically said it was this game. It's just, it's unfortunate. Oh, Shinotsky, I got called incel all the time. When I first started actually like interacting on Twitter, I had so many people call me an incel. It's like, okay, you want to tell that to my wife and 3 kids? Just saying. And I never had any women reject me. Not like I was ever like a playboy or going after people. And I'm sure, guys, I've said this before. The guys who use their height to their disadvantage and go, oh, women won't date me because I'm short. I'm like, well, maybe you're an asshole. I'm just like, maybe it's your personality. I don't know. I was never rich and I was never tall, and women didn't look at me with contempt. Now, no, that doesn't mean every woman I met wanted to date me, but the ones that were interested didn't care about how tall I was, you know? If he'd simply made his point without claiming the super sexy lovers did not have the modicum of decency, chances are it would have come across less preachy. Yes, I think you're right. Just have to hope Dredded. No, he's not I don't think he's a law tuber. Most of his content revolves around entertainment, movies, video games, all that kind of stuff. The ball doing a ton of... Oh my god, the ball. Yeah, that's a Nick Rekieta thing, isn't it? Inserted by the reader, so I may be wrong, but I thought he meant to be a fair, reasonable people would say so, and that's not what makes a good game. It's all context, and unfortunately some of it gets taken out of context, but it's just, there's a lot there. There is a lot there. May not believe in the Abrahamic religions. They're fundamental to our social contract. And I think, Susano, that's a very fair place to be. I know people like Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, being an atheist himself in England, believes heavily that the Christian background of England is what the core foundation of it. And I think that a lot of people may agree with that aspect. Against the common enemy, freedom-minded people had to unite with the moral authoritarian right wing. Now that the woke are being defeated, the Cold War between former temporalities begins. Yeah, unfortunately. Sorry, I swear I'm trying to catch up, guys. We'll get there eventually. Even reasonable people could be taken as a, hey, he says I'm not reasonable, you're right, it's all how it could have been taken. Again, and I've seen a lot of this because it has turned into, like I said, we'll get into some of this more. We got Madam Savvy here. She has done some essays on this, going after Dredd Roberts. We've got Smash and Dredd going at it here. And it turned into this complete and utter shit show. Melanie Mac got involved, but I don't really care much. That's not a dig at Melanie Mac. I just personally, I feel like a lot of times she just farms to try to piss people off, if we're being honest about it. Let me see, where is it where he quote tweeted Smash the second time? Okay, this one right here, where he says, Smash, who's apparently a married man with children of his own. See, this is rough. So this was in response to Smash saying, when you're becoming exactly what you're fighting against, you're no better than those you're trying to stop. Again, on the stream over here, are they still going? They're still going. Holy crap. Oh, they got Leon over there. Cool. On this stream, someone pointed out that when he said, when you're becoming exactly what you're fighting against, you're no better than those you're trying to stop. A few people pointed out, you're comparing him to the woke, and it probably set him off. So maybe that wasn't the best way. Again, phrasing, guys. You know, when you text somebody and they take something out of context or they misinterpret something, and then all of a sudden you got some pissed off person on the other end of your phone and you don't know what the problem is, and you suddenly realize they didn't get that it was sarcasm or a joke or something taken out of context. Unfortunately, there's just not really much nuance to a lot of online conversations when you can't physically or verbally speak to somebody. And I think that's what we're seeing is a lot of this matriculating. Because again, John Trent got involved. He and Savvy started going at it. But then Dread Roberts says Smash, who's apparently a married woman with children of his own, seems to think that another married man with children of his own setting boundaries and having morals or values is becoming exactly what you're fighting against. Again, this is just turning into like a couple of monkeys flinging shit in a cage, you know? You can never tell how people are think you're being, because again, you never know how the reader will read it. Okay, no. But as a man, especially as a short guy, you don't have the option to be a playboy. You're missing the point. I'm not saying that, you know, a short guy has this choice of any woman on the planet. I'm saying it's all about your personality and how you approach the situation and how you make it the best of your, you know, situation. Saying that I would be saying that I would whore myself out if I was a woman, thank God I'm not one, is not the same thing as saying that, you know, I wasn't a playboy as a man. That's not no, those two things have nothing to do with each other. Oh, okay, Mari, no sweat. No, and that is also true, Dan. That it is not the same. I understand that there is a certain oh, Oscar had to go. Sorry, see you later. There is definitely a difference between women back in the early 2000s and now. They're for real. Oh, he sounds like Alyssa. Yeah. Mac never has a take that goes beyond F that gay crap. I mean, okay, so to be fair, as a straight guy, I don't want to play a game with a bunch of gay characters. I don't want to watch a movie with a bunch of gay characters. Can it exist? Sure, go for it. You want to play your gay game? Go for it. Not my personal thing. Not what I want to get into. Not what I want to play. But I can at least respect that. I get it. Savvytism is a force to be reckoned with. Savvy she is thorough and brutal. Let me tell you. And she's not mean. She's not like bitchy about it. She's very, very meticulous. Does a lot of good research. Find it they're turning into reactionaries against each other rather than taking a beat and thinking about it. They're all instantly attacking. That's the thing. Here's where do we draw the line between grifter and somebody who's having a genuine conversation? Because I don't want this stream to be a grift stream. Like, guys, if none of you super chatted, if I didn't get new members, I would be just as happy to sit here and still talk about it. Like, this is not about like, oh, I got to get in on this situation. Let's make more money or get more viewers. This is a situation right now that is unfortunately serious is a relative term. If you care about this crap, it's serious, right? Because we're seeing people who, like you said, you genuinely care about a lot of these creators, you enjoy their content, you think that they're all doing good work in their own way, and all of a sudden they're all at each other's throats, and it seems like people obviously are going to spin it to their advantage. You're going to see people being very much, I'm not going to use the word grift because that's exactly the word that they want to use. They're just making the most of it, you know, making hay while the sun shines. And I can't blame anybody for that, but I look at it and go, unless you're willing to have a conversation about the nuance, you're not helping the situation, you're making it worse. And I don't think we need to make the situation worse. I think people need to be able to understand each other and go, okay, we're all coming at this from different situations. Maybe we can all say, I'm going to agree to disagree, and we'll have some nuanced conversation and be able to like see each other eye to eye, even if we don't agree. You know, I think that that's a very feasible thing. Hey, Stand on Rumble. He's rejecting not being authoritarian, expose and reject.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Yeah, the crazy thing is there's a lot of people who said that Dredd is being authoritarian. I don't think he's trying to like control what everybody can play or consume. I think he's voicing his own personal moral opinion about what he sees being the new norm for, again, the pendulum swinging to the anti-woke side of things. And he doesn't like the fact that it's going to heavily focus on what he considers to be sexualized content. I guess. I don't want to speak for Dredd. This is why I wanted to have him on tomorrow night, but that's just not going to work out. That's fine. I don't like doing this where I'm speaking for somebody else. I'm just trying to look through what I've read through in the last couple of hours and try to make sense out of some of this and see if there's anywhere that we can kind of like find some middle ground, you know? What you hate is it gives all the losing freaks on the left some ammo to use against us. Yeah. A lot of what you read in here online is just people flexing, but it's just a front. Especially when it seems they're trying to set up them up for others. Yeah, thanks for the follow, Oscar. Appreciate it. Yeah, and I don't know. Let's go through this tweet here. It says, I've been fighting against DEI relentlessly and was one of the very first people to defend him when Mercante was going after his wife. That is true. That is 100% true. See, Stan, and that's the thing. People are going to have different opinions on what is and is not degenerate, what is not like immoral or acceptable content. And unfortunately, like, you and I might very much agree on what is and is not acceptable as far as like for our own family, for our kids. I just don't know where you draw the line as far as like what's allowed to be existing in media. Again, like I've said before, and I saw a tweet about this earlier today. I'm like, okay, Savvy was having a conversation with somebody about what is the acronym? I don't want to say it out loud because it's so gross. CSAM, I think it is. Child assault material, right? Horrible stuff. And somebody was like, well, if it's a depiction of a real child in a video game or a movie or a TV show, then that's wrong. But if it's a character that exists only in fantasy, then there's nothing wrong with that existing. And somebody in YouTube chat here, I can't remember who said it, was talking about how, unfortunately, making that illegal causes real victims of that kind of content to get ignored because they can't follow all those leads on all those cases. So it's a horrible situation to be stuck in the middle of, where I'm like, yeah, I would say if you could just ban anything depicting minors, even if it wasn't real, go for it. Just ban it, make it all illegal. At the same time, if it's going to make it harder to catch people who are doing terrible things to children, it's just like, what do you do there? You know? Yeah, Stan, unfortunately, I think we're almost too late. I think at this point, that's the direction the entire world is headed, really. Maybe not. I mean, maybe things will swing back to something more sensible. I don't know. Let me see here. Happily single. All you need is video games, manga, anime, YouTube to be happy. You know what, Natsuno? Here's the thing. You will be happy until you're not. And once you're not happy, if you feel like you need to change something, then you just got to do the things you need to do, you know? Savvy is pretty based. Like I said, she actually responded, despite the fact that she was... This woman, I don't know how she had the time. She was in this, like, the middle of these, like, massive threads between John Trent and Dredd and all these other people. She responded very eloquently and logically to a lot of her takes. And again, I don't like or agree with necessarily with the child material. Again, there's nuance and points that were being made that I'm like, okay, I can understand the argument even if I don't like it, you know? And that's all I want. I want people to actually be able to speak to each other in terms where we may not agree on everything, we may not like what the other person's saying, but you can at least understand to some degree what they're coming from. When you realize that conservatives does not mean we're going to accept the liberal degradation that made everything gets to this point. You know, Black Cat, here's the funny thing about that. I was criticizing the quartering about that months ago. Because, okay, so I'm somebody that always voted Republican. Now I realize, oh my God, I voted for George W. Bush Jr., whatever, horrible person. Why did I vote for that guy? Just because he has an R next to his name. I voted for, who was the dude that ran against Mitt Romney against Obama? Now I realize Mitt Romney was no better than Obama. So what was the point of that? What does it matter? So now I look at it and go, it is really funny that a lot of, let's say, liberals voted right wing, but then they suddenly don't like what a lot of right-wingers believe. And again, I understand, again, like I said, big tent, big net, we all got caught in the same situation, election, all this stuff, trying to vote for the same ultimate goal. But it is funny when the more liberal-thinking people came more to the right, and then they were surprised that some right-wingers are conservative. I'm like, well, it's always been that way, guys. They've always been there. You know, it's just always cracks me up. Because the quartering was like, well, I'm not a Republican. It's like, well, but dude, you're literally like, you're joining up with the Republicans and the conservatives. I don't know. It just cracks me up. And again, that's not to say that you can't get along, that you can't find ways to, you know, see eye to eye on certain things. This is a test, maybe. No, Susanna, the thing is, like, in this situation, I could be, like, totally, like, trying to dunk on one of them or the other, and it's like, I just want to be able to figure out how this all happened and see if there's anywhere that we can get through and, just try to, like, mend this, because this is some weird shit, you know? Not shadow banned from live chats? No, Jex, but a lot of people are. I was speaking to some people about it, and apparently... there's a lot that happened after the election where a lot of channels weren't shadow banned, but they no longer pop up on like your home feed. You can go find their videos if you click on their name on YouTube, like on their app or whatever. But after the election, a lot of them, like, they no longer show up in your home feed, I guess. I don't know. It's really weird. Similarly, to turn off their snap brain and have a conversation. Yeah, exactly. That was the thing. I was hoping if I could get Dredd on the stream, we could kind of talk about it, because I understand where the other guys are coming from, and I know where he's coming from. I'm like, There's got to be a way that we can actually work this out to where we can have a conversation about it where everyone can understand. He's not calling everybody out and saying you're all terrible. He's just saying I don't like the direction that we're swinging so heavily back the other way from, you know? Yeah, I saw that, Oscar. Appreciate it. CP, aka COD points in COD, and creator points in GD, not kind of funny. Like controlling how to make advanced weapons, you generally don't care as long as it's not causing direct harm to people. And well, we're at no risk of everything becoming Gooner, but he strawmans. He made it clear he's not just talking about his own preferences. Yeah, there's a lot there too. Yeah, Stan, I'm not talking about compromising with stuff that you truly find morally reprehensible. Like, for example, if Dredd doesn't like any of this stuff in games, like let's say he's the kind of guy, and I'm not putting words in his mouth, but let's just say Dredd doesn't even think a woman should go to a beach in a bathing suit. He's allowed to that opinion, 100% entitled to that opinion. I might not agree with him, but I would never ask him to change that opinion. He just he'd have to realize that he can't apply that to every other person that exists. And even like bathing suits, like I said, there's differing opinions on what qualifies as modest or immodest. And somebody else brought up that other parts of the world, nudity is not immodest. And it's like, well, if it's not immodest outside of your culture is going to set your societal norms. Your society you live in, your city, your county, your state, they decide what is modest or immoral based on, again, the statutes and the opinions of everybody who lives there. That's kind of how things are dictated, you know? Whether you like it or not, that's just kind of the way things work here, unfortunately. They all get auto-deleted? That happens a lot. Oh, I see what you're talking about. Okay. Yeah, no, unfortunately, the censorship on YouTube is massive. What do you got there? You need my help with what? The elf? What are we doing with the elf tonight? We can't draw mustaches on. There's no way that we can do that. I forgot my tinfoil hat. No, I just noticed that I'm right here under Alex Jones. Where is that at? I guess nobody else I'm following. Oh, Sally's streaming tonight. Okay. You can control yourself, not so much others, nor do you wish to. Granted, you need to be clear there's limits on your tolerance. Direct harm's a no-go. Pizzagate isn't debunked. I didn't say it was. Was Romney better than Obama? I don't know. I kind of look back going, they were just kind of like two sides of the same coin, right? Part of the swing dynamic, the right will niche down in purity spiral to give in. Because they're fiction. Yeah, no, I know that it's fiction. It's just, yeah. Okay, well, that's good. Actually, Susanna, like I was saying, my video last night broke through, and so I'm kind of hoping that I can get back on an upswing. Because if I showed you my analytics, where there was just a sudden like drop off, it was like a valve got turned off. It was absolutely insane. They want to stop time at the early 90s and 2000s, and sadly we're blasted past that reality. Yeah. You want to see a block count on everyone's account? I actually only have I only block spammers and bots. I don't block anybody. I don't block anybody that I disagree with, ever. I'm blocked. Dude, what's his face on here? I told you, Sial or Sial, however you pronounce his name. He followed me on Twitter, blocked me, unblocked me, followed me, and then blocked me again. I've never even talked to the guy. Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't care to find out. Don't really care. The real life Lolitas might have some sassy Spanish words for them, though. About having Dredd on my stream? Well, he's not going to be on my... Dredd's not going to go on anyone's stream, and that's not because he's scared to or whatever. He, honest to God, he's in the middle of trying to move to a different country, and he has a baby and stuff, so he's, like, super busy. And I don't know that he honestly cares that much, to be honest. He said what he said, and I don't know that he feels like he needs to defend it necessarily at this point. Let me see here. I feel like I'm catching up finally. Oh my god, am I at the bottom? Oh, we're here. We're at the bottom, finally. Elf on the shelf, not elf in a self. Nobody's putting elf in themselves unless they're in that sort of thing. Yeah, Doll Life, I don't know why he blocked me on Twitter. I legit never said a cross word to him. I never interacted with him. It's just, I don't know. It's just dumb. Oh my god, I saw the best elf on a shelf meme, but I'm going to save it for tomorrow. We'll do a normal stream tomorrow night. And then, like I said, I'm kind of hoping that all this stuff blows over. And that's why I feel like it's better to have a live stream where we can talk about it than just to make a video on it and let you guys like tell me I'm a stupid like moron in the comments, which is fine. You're allowed to do that. That's cool. But this way we can have a dialogue about it and just kind of voice our own opinions and say, maybe we can all take a chill pill. Maybe somebody will see it and figure out a way to come across. And, you know, because I could have gone through all these different conversations. My God, Savvy, like I told you, she was in depth. All of her, like, she did like a freaking essay tonight. I don't know how she had the time, but like, holy crap. Kyle, okay. Well, you know, DB, I would know if he hadn't blocked me on Twitter. I don't follow him on YouTube. I don't even know what his channel name is. Is it username? But once he blocked me on Twitter, I'm like, well, I'm not even gonna bother because what's the point? I can't even talk to the guy, you know? Earth is flat if you do a flip on the edge. You'll always be here to call me a stupid moron. Exactly. Yeah, Susano, I think honestly it's just on one hand, you have people with different moral beliefs, different opinions and ideologies and religious beliefs, and they're allowed to have those. And unfortunately, things were taken out of context, said poorly, and people just need to realize this is what happens when you cast a wide net and you bring all these people of different beliefs and different backgrounds under one umbrella, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we all have to somehow get along and make everyone just get, you know, it's like that. It doesn't work that well or that easily. So we are going to start to see things, again, splinter off and fracture, and that's inevitable. It's going to happen. It doesn't mean it has to happen ugly. Like, for example, go back 5 years ago, before I was making YouTube videos and streaming like this and content and talking about politics and everything else, I was just playing games on Twitch, right? And I met a few people from various walks of life, 3 guys that were my buddies that I played online with. They were all younger than me because I'm old as hell. A couple of them one was like a teenager and a couple of them were in their 20s. And we were all we played like Call of Duty and Apex together and stuff, Minecraft, mindless, dumb stuff, right? And pretty sure they all voted Democrat. 2 of them were, one's like half Mexican, one's full-blooded Mexican, like I think from Mexico. Another one's a black kid from another, like the Midwest. And it didn't matter that we disagreed on certain things. We had a great time. We all played games together. It was all good, you know? I feel like if we can get back to people just being able to be friendly and cordial with each other, realizing that despite the fact that we might all agree on one thing, we're not going to agree on everything, and we need to be able to have conversations about this, because this is going to get nowhere. These kind of like back and forth where we're just like tearing each other down, that doesn't get us anywhere, unfortunately. Yeah, no, unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to work too well, you know? He does heteronormative hip-hop. Oh, boy. Hard to be a flat earther in the internet society. Well, yeah, you can call me a stupid moron. That's okay. You get a free pass. That's like your N-word pass for this white guy for tonight. If not flat, why do I not roll off? Great question. Great questions. Kotaku article: bigoted gamer plays games with teenagers on Twitch. Oh, I knew the moment I said it that it was gonna get taken out of context. Nothing happened. No inappropriate messages. No. The funniest thing was, so like I said, I'm white. One of these guys was half Mexican, half Italian. The other one's full-blooded Mexican, and we got this black kid we play with. And the black one was one saying the N-word on stream. I'm like, dude, you gotta stop. Like, I'm not even saying anything, but you saying the N-word's gonna get me banned on Twitch. Like, chill. Came across a video that felt like spam on how someone advertised it. You keep going back to it. It's pretty censored on YouTube. What on earth happened? It's great. Got me into FE so bad I can't go back. Oh, man. You don't agree with a good chunk of the takes of some of the people you watch, but you're not about to jump on some bandwagon to attack another unless their take is abhorrent. Yeah, honestly, like, dude, here's the thing. I think, again, it's okay to have different opinions. Yeah, Arsha, that's where I'm at. The conversation where Dread's opinion is formed from, I completely get it. And the fan service side of it, I get too. It's like there is the ability to see both sides of this conversation. We're not talking about something that is morally like, well, let's talk about this, you know, the map stuff on Blue Sky, or, you know, lowering the age of consent. No, we're not talking about things that are morally inflexible, reprehensible, like where I'm not going to waver at all in my opinion. We're talking about situations where we're not even talking about like the hentai stuff, guys. We're not talking about like the true like 18 and up games. We're talking about games that have existed and games that like this type that have existed for decades. This is nothing new. Like why are we talking about First Descendant? God of War, Grand Theft Auto, these had like sex mini games. Like God of War had the like the orgy mini game. Grand Theft Auto had strip clubs back in the day, and you could have sex with a hooker and beat her to death. It's like, why is the moral outrage about First Descendant? I don't know. And that's where I think he was generalizing, and unfortunately it got latched onto that one game, and it's just taken all of this out of context and wait. But yes, my wife wants me to help with the Elf on the Shelf. Secret Caucasian, yes, exactly. Trying to relax? Well, hopefully you were able to relax. I don't relax enough. I'm one of these people. Look, NS, I am Italian. I'm a quarter Sicilian, you bastard, you pasty British bastard, you. I am a quarter Italian, okay? My granddaddy was from Sicily. He came through Ellis Island. I am Italian, but I'm also part Irish, part Dutch, maybe a little bit French, something else, whatever, crawled under the fence. I don't know. Let me see here. For example, you don't want that kind of fan service in Halo, but from First Descendants, hell yeah. Yeah, and again, if you don't like First Descendants, you don't play it, you know? Yeah, fight me verbally, you gotta blame the parents. If the kid plays something that they're not prepared for, where's the parents? You know? Anything beyond that, there is a certain amount of this where you can go, well, maybe that crosses a line, maybe it should be, 18 and up, or whatever, or they're just too focused on this and it's not a good game. There's a conversation to be had for a lot of that. And again, I played, you go back to the good old days, like the early 2000s. But when did the first Blood Rain game come out? That game was awesome, okay? And so much of that game, what it was about was the fact that she was like, it wasn't like over the top sexualized, but she was this very sexy vampire character, and it was like over the top gore and action, and it was really cool. Great game. IGN article, racially mixed white. Oh no, IGN would never refer to you as based, okay? They would never refer to you as based, ever. I touch my nose a lot, okay? My nose is very itchy. What I find is when I let my mustache grow out, it tickles my nose a little bit, and holy crap, it's just like it's a habit. It's not one of these Nick Ricada on stream whacking off or snorting coke and coming back and falling asleep in a chair, I promise. I wouldn't even know where to buy drugs. I'm not even kidding. I am that boring and straight-laced. Yeah, Blood Rain was dope. That game was freaking awesome. All right, guys, I have to go. We are going to do our normal stream tomorrow. We will keep things on schedule, I promise. And then maybe kick things back up a notch. Get back to 3 streams a week. Do our indie streams on Wednesday. I don't know. We'll see. Good part of video games, nobody's making you play them. And exactly. And we've seen that this year with, again, the pushback against the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff is that the games we don't want to buy fail. That's really what it comes down to. Oh, Roblox is... I won't let my kids play Roblox because, holy shit, that game is actually like a predator hunting ground. It's crazy. Every time you grow a beard, you develop a tick too. I swear to God, Gregor, like, literally, it's like... I'll either be rubbing my beard or I'll notice that my nose itches. It's the craziest thing. Because if you get rid of your mustache and beard again... Oh, no. That unless there's another Halloween where I have to dress up. Maybe if I do Gru from the Minions and I have to shave my entire head bald, I'll have to shave the beard too. But again, that would totally be worth it. But that would be the only exception. I'm not getting rid of the beard again anytime soon. Same to you, Isser Jew. Appreciate it. Susano, take it easy. Same with you, Real Bob. Doll Life Dan. It's funny because Rakita said the same. I swear to God, I'm not Nick Ricada. I swear. I am so way too boring to live Nick Ricada's life. Like, holy crap. Yes, Doll Life, we can see your comments. You are not blocked. You are not shadow banned. You're good. Let me see here. The coup, honestly, Roblox not even capping. Wrong mode. They are in the... Yeah, exactly. I no Roblox. Only because it's a game that I know nothing about as far as like how everything works on that game. So if I haven't played it or watched my kids play it, I'm not gonna let them play it and start talking to some creepy pedo like who's trying to like groom them and shit. And that's unfortunate. I've heard a lot of shit about Roblox. Now they play other stuff. Yeah. All right, DB, I'm out of here. She wants to draw mustaches on the kids in their sleep. I'm not even kidding. They kept being like, hey, the elves on the shelf need to do like a prank or whatever. I'm like, oh God, here we go. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you all so much. You guys have been super awesome tonight, especially for given the fact that this was a impromptu stream. I hope all these guys can figure it out. I'm really, really hoping that every one of these people involved can try to figure out a way to like communicate, cool out, chill out, take a chill pill, like I said. Figure your shit out. Let's get back to what really matters. Trying to make video games good again. Make gaming great again, right? Come on, guys. Let's go. Oh yeah, fight me verbally. There are plenty of games. There are plenty of them. Lots of them. And again, if there's a game that's more spicy or whatever, fine. I don't care. You don't have to play it if you don't like it, but let's just try to not... We got to knock off the nonsense. We got to knock this off. All right, guys. You all have a good night. Thank you all so much. You've been friggin' awesome. I will catch you guys later.